I was standing in the pouring rain outside a grocery store at 11 p.m., counting quarters from my apron pocket, when I realized I didn't have enough money to buy myself dinner. My name is Margaret Chen, I'm 63 years old, and for the past 18 months, I've been living as a paying guest in my own son's house. If you're watching this, please hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I really need to know I'm not going crazy alone here. Let me paint you a picture of how I got here. After my husband passed away 3 years ago, I lost everything. The medical bills swallowed our savings, then our home. I was drowning, and my son David threw me what I thought was a lifeline. "Come live with us, Mom," he said. "We have that extra room. We'll figure it out together." I should have known better when his wife, Jessica, handed me a lease agreement at the dinner table my first night there. "It's just to keep things professional," she smiled, sliding the paper across like we were strangers. $800 a month, plus you cover your own food and utilities. We calculated your portion based on square footage. I live in a 10 by 12 bedroom in their 4-bedroom house in Sacramento. I can hear everything through these paper-thin walls. I hear them laugh. I hear them plan vacations. I hear them talk about me. To make that $800, I work the early morning shift at a bakery, 4 a.m. to noon. Then I clean houses until 6 p.m. Some weeks I pick up weekend shifts at a call center just to stay ahead. I'm 63 years old and I haven't had a day off in 4 months. Tonight, after my bakery shift, I stopped at the store to buy bread and eggs. When I reached for my wallet, I realized I'd already given David this month's rent yesterday, 2 days early, because Jessica said they needed it for household expenses. I had $17 left until Friday. I put the eggs back, kept the bread. As I stood there in the rain waiting for the bus, watching families load groceries into their cars, I thought about something I'd been trying not to think about. Last week I walked past David's home office. The door was cracked open. On his desk was a bank statement. I didn't mean to look, but I saw it. Their mortgage payment, $2,100. They're charging me $800 to live in a spare bedroom. I'm paying nearly 40% of their mortgage, buying my own food, staying out of their way, and working myself into the ground. And you know what the worst part is? I raised David by myself. His father left when he was 2. I worked double shifts as a nurse to put him through college. I co-signed his first car loan when no one else would. I gave him the down payment for this house, the same house I now pay rent to live in. When I finally got home that night, soaking wet and exhausted, I walked past the living room. David and Jessica were on the couch, laughing at something on TV. On the coffee table sat brochures for a cruise to Alaska. "Hey Mom," David called out without looking up. "Don't forget, rent's due on the 1st. No exceptions this time." I stood there, dripping rainwater onto their hardwood floors I scrub every Saturday, and something inside me finally cracked. The morning after the rain incident, I woke up at 3:30 a.m. like always. My body doesn't even need an alarm anymore. It just knows when it's time to drag itself to the bakery. But this time I couldn't fall back asleep after waking up. I lay there in my small room staring at the ceiling, and for the first time in 18 months I started really looking at my life. Not just surviving it, actually looking at it. Here's what I began to see. Every Sunday I clean this entire house, top to bottom. David never asked me to, but Jessica made a comment once about 3 months after I moved in. She said, "It must be nice not having to worry about housework when you're older." The way she said it, with that tight smile, I knew what she meant. So I started cleaning. Bathrooms, kitchen, living room, their bedroom. I vacuum, I dust, I scrub. On my one day off. Thought I was being helpful. Earning my place. But that morning, lying in bed, I realized something. Jessica doesn't work. She hasn't worked since their daughter was born 12 years ago. Their daughter, Emma, is now in 7th grade. She's at school from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Their son moved out last year for college. What does Jessica do all day? I started thinking about the house. It's always perfect when I come home from work. But not because Jessica cleaned it. It's perfect because nobody's here. Jessica spends her mornings at yoga class. I know because I've seen the charges on the credit card statement that accidentally got delivered to my room last month. She has lunch with friends. She comes home around 4 p.m., usually with shopping bags. I'm paying $800 a month to live in their house. And I'm the one cleaning it. Let me tell you about David and Jessica. From the outside they look perfect. David is a financial advisor at a big firm downtown. He makes good money, really good money. He drives a BMW. He wears expensive suits. When they have people over, he's charming. He tells jokes. He puts his arm around Jessica and calls her babe. He introduces me as Mom with this big smile, like he's so generous for taking me in. But behind closed doors it's different. David controls everything. Every dollar. Jessica has credit cards, but David reviews every statement. I know because I've heard them argue about it. Once, Jessica bought a purse that cost $300 and David made her return it. We need to be smart with money, he told her. Then the next week I saw a charge for $1,000 at a golf course on that same credit card statement. Jessica doesn't push back. She just gets quieter. And here's the thing that really started bothering me. Jessica used to be different. When she and David first got married 15 years ago, she was in graduate school. She was studying to be a therapist. She was bright, ambitious, full of ideas. Then she got pregnant with Emma, and David suggested she take a semester off. One semester turned into a year. A year turned into forever. Why would you go back to school? I overheard him say once. I make enough for both of us. You should focus on being a mom. But now Emma barely needs a mom at home. And Jessica just exists. She floats through this house like a ghost. I started paying attention to the small things. The way David speaks to both of us. Never yelling. Always calm. But his words have edges. Mom, you left the hallway light on again. Electricity isn't free. Jessica, this chicken is a little dry. Maybe watch the timer next time. Mom, I noticed you used the washing machine during peak hours. That's not efficient. Every comment. Every correction. Little by little making us feel small. 3 days after the rain incident, I was cleaning the bathroom, their bathroom, and I found something. A folder tucked under a stack of magazines in David's nightstand. I wasn't snooping. The magazines had fallen and I was picking them up. Inside the folder were bank statements, credit card bills, documents. My hands were shaking as I looked through them. I knew I shouldn't, but I couldn't stop. Here's what I found. David makes $180,000 a year. Their mortgage payment is $2,400 a month. They have one car payment, $650 for Jessica's SUV. The BMW, paid off years ago. But there were other charges, thousands of dollars. A golf club membership, $500 a month. Dinners at steakhouses, $300, $400, $500 at a time. A charge for $2,800 at a jewelry store. Another for $3,200 at a men's clothing store. And then I saw it. A spreadsheet. Printed out. Titled, Monthly Budget. Under Income, there was David's salary. And then in a separate line, Rental Income, $800. That was me. I was listed as income. Under Expenses, the mortgage was listed. Utilities, car payment, and then personal discretionary, $4,000. My $800 wasn't going toward the mortgage. It wasn't going toward keeping the house running. It was going into David's personal spending account. I was funding his lifestyle. I put everything back exactly as I found it. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. I went to my room, closed the door, and sat on the edge of my bed. I needed to talk to someone. I needed to talk to my son. That evening, I waited until David got home from work. He was in a good mood. I could hear him whistling in the kitchen. Jessica was making dinner. I walked in, trying to keep my voice steady. "David, can we talk for a minute?" He looked up from his phone. "Sure, Mom." "What's up?" I sat down at the kitchen table. Jessica was at the stove, her back to us, but I could see her shoulders tense. "I've been thinking," I said carefully. "I've been here for 18 months now. I'm grateful, really. But I'm working 3 jobs and the rent, it's getting hard to manage. I was wondering if maybe we could adjust it. Just for a few months until I can save a little." David set his phone down. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "Mom," he said slowly, "we've talked about this. You're living in a desirable area. The room you're in could rent for $1,000 on the open market. We're giving you a deal." "I know, but nothing." His voice was still calm, still smooth. "You need to learn to budget better. That's what got you into trouble in the first place, right? After Dad died, you couldn't manage the money." My throat tightened. "David, we lost everything because of medical bills. Your father had cancer for 2 years. I'm not trying to be harsh, Mom." He reached across the table and patted my hand. It felt condescending. "But you need to take responsibility. We're helping you. The least you can do is pay your share." I looked at Jessica. She was staring down at the pot on the stove, stirring mechanically. "Okay," I whispered. "I understand." I got up and went back to my room. I closed the door. I sat on my bed in the dark. That night I couldn't sleep. Around midnight I heard voices from their bedroom. It's right above mine and the vents carry sound. At first it was muffled. Then David's voice got louder. "I don't understand why you're defending her," he said. "I'm not defending her." Jessica's voice was small. "I just think maybe we could lower the rent a little. She's working so hard. She should be working hard. He's an adult. And frankly, this is a good arrangement for us." "What do you mean?" "Jessica, think about it. Your mom pays us $800 a month. That's $9,600 a year. We're not spending that on her. He buys her own food. He cleans the house. He stays out of our way. It's basically free money." There was silence. Then Jessica's voice, even quieter. "David, that feels wrong. She's my mother-in-law. She helped us with the down payment on this house. And we're giving her a place to live. Or even, look, your mom is a cash cow. Why would we mess with that? If she can't afford the rent, she can get a 4th job. Not our problem." I stood up. My legs were shaking. I pressed my hand against the wall to steady myself. My son who I raised alone. My son who I sacrificed everything for. My son who I gave $30,000 to so he could buy this house. He just called me a cash cow. I stood there in the dark, listening to the silence above me, and I made a decision. I wasn't going to just survive anymore. The next morning, I called in sick to the bakery for the first time in 18 months. "I know what you're thinking, Margaret, you can't afford to miss work." "You're right. But I also couldn't afford to keep living in the dark. I needed answers, and I needed them now." Jessica left the house at 9 a.m. for her yoga class, like clockwork. David had already gone to work at 7. I had the house to myself until at least noon. I started in the home office. David keeps it locked, but I'd watched him open it enough times to know where he hides the key, inside a fake book on the hallway shelf. The irony wasn't lost on me. The book was titled Trust: Building Strong Family Bonds. My hands trembled as I unlocked the door. The office was exactly what you'd expect from someone like David. Neat. Organized. Everything in its place. A large desk with a computer, filing cabinets, shelves lined with business books and awards. On the wall, a framed photo of him shaking hands with some executive. I didn't have much time, so I had to be smart about this. I started with the filing cabinet. The first drawer was labeled Household. Inside were folders. Mortgage, utilities, insurance, taxes. I pulled out the mortgage folder first. Their monthly payment was $2,400, just like I'd seen before. But as I looked through the statements, I noticed something else. They'd refinanced 2 years ago, right around the time Jessica's father died and left her $50,000 in his will. That inheritance money went straight to paying down the mortgage. Their actual balance now was less than half what they originally owed. They were telling me they were struggling financially, but they just received $50,000 and used it to reduce their debt. I kept digging. In the back of the drawer, I found a folder labeled Rental Agreement. Chin. That was me. Inside was a copy of the lease Jessica had made me sign. But there was something else. A spreadsheet tracking my payments. Every month $800. Never late. Never missed. At the bottom of the spreadsheet was a note in David's handwriting. Additional income stream, stable and reliable. I felt sick. I moved to the next drawer. This one was labeled Personal Finance. Inside were credit card statements going back 3 years. I started looking through them and a pattern emerged. Restaurants. $200, $300, $400 at a time. But these weren't family dinners. The dates were always weekday afternoons. Tuesdays. Thursdays. Times when Jessica thought David was at work. There were charges at hotels. Not in Sacramento. In San Francisco. In Lake Tahoe. Places you'd go for a romantic getaway. And here's the thing. David travels for work sometimes, but his company reimburses him. These charges were on his personal card. I took photos of everything with my phone. My heart was racing. I didn't know what this all meant yet, but I knew it wasn't good. Then I found the folder. It was in the bottom drawer, buried under a stack of old tax returns. The tab read, Investment Properties. I opened it and my blood ran cold. Inside were property listings. Rental houses. Duplexes. Apartment buildings. Each one circled, with notes in the margins about potential rental income and return on investment. There were loan pre-approval letters from a bank. And there, clipped to the top, was a document titled, Proof of Income Supplemental. It was a signed statement from David declaring that he received $800 per month in rental income from a tenant living in his home. Me. He'd used my rent payments, money I was scraping together from 3 jobs, as proof that he could afford to buy rental properties. He was building a real estate empire on my back. I sat down in his chair, staring at these documents, and something inside me shifted. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about my son treating me like a business transaction. Like I was an investment opportunity instead of his mother. I took photos of everything. Then I put it all back exactly as I found it, locked the office and returned the key to its hiding spot. I went to my room and sat on my bed, scrolling through the photos on my phone. I needed to talk to someone. I needed help. And suddenly, I thought of someone I hadn't spoken to in almost 5 years. My daughter Rachel. Rachel is my youngest. She's 40 now, living in Portland. She and David had a massive falling out years ago. It happened at David's wedding to Jessica. Rachel stood up during the rehearsal dinner and told David that Jessica seemed uncomfortable with him. That he was controlling. That she was worried. David lost it. He told Rachel she was jealous, that she was trying to ruin his happiness, that she needed to leave. Rachel left. They haven't spoken since. And because I tried to keep the peace between them, Rachel pulled away from me too. But now, sitting in this tiny room with proof of what David was really like, I realized Rachel had been right all along. I pulled up her number. My finger hovered over the call button for a full minute before I finally pressed it. It rang 4 times. I thought she wouldn't answer. Then, hello. Her voice. God, I'd missed her voice. Rachel, I said, and my voice cracked. It's Mom. There was a long silence. Mom. He sounded shocked. Is everything okay? And then I broke down. Right there on the phone, I told her everything. The rent. The jobs. The things I'd found in David's office. The way he talked about me. I told her about overhearing him call me a cash cow. Rachel was quiet for a long time after I finished. Then she said something I'll never forget. Mom, you're being financially abused. David is exploiting you. And I think he's been doing it to Jessica too. What do you mean? Think about it. He controls all the money. He isolated her from her career. He makes both of you feel like you owe him something. Mom, that's textbook financial abuse. And probably emotional abuse too. I'd never thought about it that way. But as soon as Rachel said it, everything clicked into place. What do? I asked. First, you need to stop paying him rent. Second, you need to get out of that house. Come stay with me in Portland. I have a spare room, a real one, not a converted garage. You can stay as long as you need. No rent. I started crying again. Rachel, I can't just leave. I have my jobs here. And what about Jessica? I can't abandon her. Mom, you can't save Jessica if you're drowning yourself. Get yourself safe first. Then we figure out the rest. He was right. I knew she was right. We talked for another hour. Rachel helped me make a plan. But she also told me I needed more than just family support. I needed documentation. I needed evidence. And I needed to understand my legal options. The next day at the diner, I confided in someone I'd never expected would become my ally. Her name is Ava. She's 28, working as a server while finishing her paralegal certification. She's sharp, ambitious, and she doesn't take crap from anyone. We'd become friendly over the past few months. She'd noticed I was always exhausted, always stressed. During our break, I pulled her aside and told her a simplified version of my situation. I didn't go into all the details, just the basics. Living with my son, paying rent, working multiple jobs, feeling trapped. Ava's eyes narrowed. Wait, do you have a formal lease agreement? Yes. I signed something when I moved in. Does the room you're renting meet housing code requirements? Like, does it have a proper heating system, a window, its own exit? Thought about my room. The space heater. The tiny window that doesn't open all the way. The fact that I have to walk through the laundry room to get to the only bathroom I'm allowed to use. I don't think so, I said slowly. Ava leaned forward. Margaret, if your son is charging you rent for a space that doesn't meet minimum habitability standards, that's potentially illegal. And if he's claiming that rental income on tax forms or loan applications, but the space isn't legally a rental unit, that's fraud. My mouth fell open. Are you serious? Dead serious. Look, I'm not a lawyer yet, but we covered landlord-tenant law last semester. You might have more leverage than you think. Have you kept records of all your payments? I pay by check every month. I have copies. Good. Keep those. Take photos of your living space. Document everything. And maybe talk to a lawyer who specializes in elder financial abuse. Elder financial abuse. That phrase hit me hard. I went home that day with my mind spinning. Ava had given me her textbook on housing law. Rachel was helping me plan an exit strategy. I had photos of David's documents on my phone. I was building a case. But I needed one more thing. I needed someone in the family to acknowledge what was happening. Someone other than Rachel, who David had already written off as dramatic. So I called my older sister Linda. Linda is 68. She lives in Arizona with her husband. She's always been the voice of reason in our family, the one who mediates disputes and keeps everyone together. If anyone would understand, it would be Linda. I called her that evening after my shift at the call center. Margaret, she answered warmly. How are you, sweetie? It's been too long. We chatted for a few minutes about her grandkids, the weather, nothing important. Then I took a breath and told her what was happening. I told her about the rent, the 3 jobs, the documents I'd found, the way David talked about me. When I finished, there was silence on the line. Then Linda sighed. Margaret, honey, I think you might be overreacting. My stomach dropped. What? David took you in when you had nowhere else to go. He's giving you a roof over your head. I know it's hard working multiple jobs, but that's just the reality of being on your own at our age. You can't expect your kids to support you for free. Linda, he's using my rent money to fund his lifestyle. He called me a cash cow. Did he say that to your face? No, but I heard him. Then you don't know the context. Margaret, you're going through a hard time. I understand. Losing Robert was devastating. But you can't start making accusations about your son based on things you overheard or snooped through. That's not fair to him. I felt like I'd been slapped. You should be grateful, Linda continued. David has a family of his own to take care of. The fact that he's willing to let you stay there at all is generous. Stop causing drama and just focus on getting back on your feet. I hung up shortly after that. I didn't trust myself to say anything else. I sat in my car in the call center parking lot, gripping the steering wheel, and I realized something. No one in my family was going to save me. Not Linda. Not any of my old friends who drifted away after Robert died. Not David, obviously. If I was going to get out of this, I had to save myself. That night, I went back to David's office one more time. I found the investment property folder again and looked more carefully. There were emails printed out between David and a real estate agent. They were discussing a rental property, a small duplex in a neighborhood 20 minutes away. The agent was asking for proof of income and rental experience. David had replied, I currently have a tenant in my home paying $800 per month. She's been reliable for over 18 months. I've attached payment records as proof of rental income and property management experience. He'd attached my payment history. He was using me, his own mother, to convince a bank that he was an experienced landlord so he could buy more properties and make more money. And then I saw the final page in the folder. It was a bank statement from an account I didn't recognize. The account name was DW Properties LLC. Inside that account were deposits. $800 every month for the past 18 months. My rent payments. But they weren't going toward the household expenses like David had told Jessica. They were going into a separate business account. David had created a company. He was treating me like a tenant in a rental business. And based on the balance in that account, over $17,000, he hadn't spent any of my rent money on the house. He'd been saving it, building capital, preparing to become a real estate investor. All on my back. I took one final photo. Then I closed the folder, locked the office, and walked back to my room. I pulled out my phone and texted Rachel, I'm ready. I need to get out. How soon can I come to Portland? Her reply came within seconds. Tomorrow. I'll buy you a plane ticket right now. Pack your essentials and leave everything else. We'll figure out the rest later. I sat on my bed, looking around this tiny room that I'd been paying $800 a month for. This room with its space heater and small window and thin walls. This room where I'd worked myself to exhaustion trying to earn my place in my own son's home. Tomorrow I was leaving. But before I left, I was going to make sure David understood exactly what he'd done. Chapter 4: The Setup. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Tomorrow I was walking away from my son's house after 18 months of hell. But I wasn't just walking away. I was walking toward something. Toward freedom. Toward dignity. Rachel's plane ticket arrived in my email at 2 a.m. A one-way flight to Portland, leaving at 6 p.m. the next day. But first I had to set something in motion. That morning I got up at my usual time, 3:30 a.m. I got dressed for the bakery. But I didn't go to work. Instead, I sat at my small desk and wrote something I should have written months ago. A letter. Dear David and Jessica. After much consideration, I've decided I can no longer afford to pay rent. I lost my overnight position at the call center due to budget cuts. I've been trying to manage with just 2 jobs, but I can't make the $800 monthly payment anymore. I'll need to stay here without paying rent while I look for additional work, or I'll need to find somewhere else to live. Please let me know how you'd like to proceed. Margaret. I left the letter on the kitchen table where David would see it during breakfast. Then I went to my room, pulled out my suitcase and started packing. I heard David's footsteps on the stairs at 6:45 a.m. His morning routine was always the same. Coffee first. Then he'd check his phone while Jessica made breakfast. I heard the coffee maker. Then silence. Then, what the hell is this? His voice was sharp. I heard Jessica ask what was wrong. Then I heard paper rustling. He was reading my letter out loud. She lost her job? How convenient. David's voice was dripping with sarcasm. I bet she's lying. She's trying to manipulate us. I stayed in my room holding my breath. Maybe we should talk to her, Jessica said quietly. If she really lost her job. If she lost her job, she can find another one. She's done it before. I'm not running a charity here, Jessica. David, she's my mother-in-law. She's family. She's a tenant who signed an agreement. If she can't pay, she needs to leave. I heard Jessica start to say something else, but David cut her off. I need to get ready for work. We'll deal with this tonight. He left the kitchen. I heard him stomp up the stairs, heard the shower turn on. I waited until I heard his BMW pull out of the driveway. Then I came out of my room. Jessica was still in the kitchen staring at my letter. She looked up when I walked in. Her eyes were red. Mom, she said softly. Is it true? Did you lose your job? I looked at my daughter-in-law. This woman who'd been nothing but cold to me for 18 months. But in that moment I saw something in her face I'd never noticed before. She looked terrified. Jessica, I said carefully, I need to ask you something. Are you okay? She blinked. What do you mean? I mean really okay. In this marriage. With David. Her face went pale. I don't understand what you're asking. Yes, you do. She looked away. I'm fine. We're fine. David takes care of us. Does he let you take care of yourself? Jessica's hands were shaking. She set down her coffee mug. I should get Emma ready for school. She left the kitchen without looking back. I stood there for a moment, my heart breaking for her. Because I knew that look. That fear. That inability to even admit what was happening. I'd seen it in my own mirror for the past 18 months. At noon my phone rang. It was Rachel. Did you leave the letter? She asked. Yes. David read it this morning. He's furious. Good. That's exactly what we want. Now listen carefully. I'm flying into Sacramento at 2 p.m. I've rented a car. I'll pick you up at 4 p.m., 2 blocks from the house. Don't let David know I'm coming. We need the element of surprise. Rachel, what are we doing? We're taking back your power, Mom. Trust me. She hung up. The afternoon dragged by. I worked my shift at the house cleaning company, scrubbing someone else's toilets while my mind raced with everything that was about to happen. When I got home at 3:30 p.m., David's car was already in the driveway. He usually didn't get home until 6 p.m. He'd left work early. This wasn't good. I walked inside. David was sitting at the kitchen table, my letter in front of him. Jessica was standing by the sink, her arms crossed, looking at the floor. Margaret. David's voice was calm. Too calm. Sit down. We need to talk. I sat. He pushed the letter toward me. Is this true? Or are you lying to get out of paying rent? I lost the overnight position, I said. It's true. Show me your termination paperwork. My heart started pounding. They didn't give me paperwork. They just told me they were cutting hours. How convenient. You know what I think, Margaret? I think you're trying to take advantage of us. You've been living here for 18 months, paying a below-market rent, and now you want to live here for free. I never said I wanted to live here for free. Then what are you saying? He leaned forward. Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like you're trying to guilt us into letting you stay without paying. That's not how this works. I took a breath. You're right. That's not how this works. So I've decided I need to move out. David blinked. What? I'll be gone by Friday. I just need a few days to arrange things. He sat back, studying me. Where exactly do you think you're going? You can barely afford rent here. How are you going to afford anywhere else? I'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Margaret, you're 63 years old. You have no savings. You have no credit. You lost your house. You're working minimum wage jobs. Where could you possibly go? Jessica cleared her throat. David, maybe we could help her find. Stay out of this, Jessica. He didn't even look at her. His eyes were locked on me. Here's what's going to happen, Margaret. You're going to find another job. A third job, a fourth job, I don't care. And you're going to keep paying rent. Because the alternative is you being homeless. And I don't think you want that. Something snapped inside me. You're right, I said quietly. I don't want to be homeless. But I also don't want to be exploited anymore. Exploited. David's voice rose. I gave you a place to live when you had nothing. You gave me a room with a space heater and a lease agreement. You charged me $800 a month, which you told Jessica was going toward household expenses, but was actually going into a separate business account called DW Properties LLC. David's face went white. You used my rent payments as proof of income to get approved for investment property loans. You've been treating me like a tenant in a rental business, not like your mother. And you told Jessica you were barely making ends meet while you were spending thousands of dollars on restaurants and golf and jewelry. How do you? He stopped himself. His jaw clenched. You went through my office. Yes. I did. He stood up so fast his chair fell backward. You had no right. And you had no right to exploit your own mother. My voice was shaking but strong. I raised you alone, David. I worked 2 jobs to put you through college. I co-signed your car loan when no one else would. I gave you $30,000 for the down payment on this house. And you repaid me by treating me like a business transaction. Jessica's hand was over her mouth. She was staring at David like she'd never seen him before. Get out, David said. I already told you I'm leaving. No. Get out now. Tonight. I want you gone. David. Jessica's voice cracked. You can't just throw her out. Yes, I can. She's a tenant who violated the terms of her lease by going through my private documents. She's out. I stood up. My legs were shaking, but I kept my voice steady. Fine. I'll be gone tonight. But you should know something, David. I documented everything. I took photos of all your financial records. The credit card statements. The investment property documents. The separate business account. The loan applications where you used my rent as proof of income. His face was red now. You have no right to those documents. And I've already sent them to someone who knows what to do with them. That was a lie. But he didn't need to know that. You're bluffing, he said. Am I? I walked toward the door, then turned back. Oh, and David? Jessica should probably know that those hotel charges in San Francisco and Lake Tahoe? The ones on your personal credit card during the middle of workdays? Those weren't business trips, were they? Jessica made a small sound. David's face went from red to purple. Get out. I went to my room. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely zip my suitcase. I grabbed my essentials, clothes, toiletries, the folder of documents I'd been hiding under my mattress, my laptop. I heard David and Jessica arguing in the kitchen. Her voice was rising, something I'd never heard before. What is she talking about, David? What hotel charges? It's none of your business. None of my business? I'm your wife. I didn't wait to hear more. I dragged my suitcase out of my room, through the kitchen where they were standing, and out the front door. David followed me onto the porch. Where do you think you're going? That's none of your business. I pulled my suitcase down the driveway. You have no money. No car. You'll be back in a week, begging to come back. I turned around. No, David. I won't. You'll be hearing from my lawyer, he shouted. I smiled. Actually smiled. Funny you should mention that. You'll be hearing from mine too. You don't have money for a lawyer. I pulled out my phone and held it up, showing him Rachel's last text. Lawyer confirmed. Pro bono. Specializes in elder financial abuse. Meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. Who said I needed money? David's face changed. The anger drained away, replaced by something else. Uncertainty. Maybe even fear. I turned and kept walking. 2 blocks away, Rachel was waiting in a rental car. When she saw me, she jumped out and ran toward me, pulling me into a hug so tight I couldn't breathe. You did it, she whispered. Mom, you did it. I started crying. Right there on the sidewalk, I broke down. Rachel held me while I sobbed, 18 months of exhaustion and fear and humiliation pouring out of me. When I finally caught my breath, Rachel pulled back and looked at me. Ready to go? Where are we going? To meet your lawyer. He grinned. Remember my friend Ava from the diner? Yes. She connected us with someone. Her name is Diana Martinez. She's a tenants' rights attorney who also specializes in elder financial abuse. She's taking your case pro bono through a nonprofit she works with. We have a meeting with her tomorrow morning, but she wanted to touch base tonight. Rachel, how did you arrange all this so fast? Mom, I've been making calls all day. You're not alone anymore. You have people on your side now. We got in the car. As Rachel pulled away from the curb, I looked back at David's house one last time. I could see him standing on the porch watching us drive away. I turned forward. Toward Portland. Toward freedom. But this wasn't over. Because tomorrow morning I was going to sit down with a lawyer and do something I should have done months ago. I was going to fight back. Rachel's apartment in Portland was everything David's house wasn't. Warm, welcoming, and free. That first night I slept for 12 hours straight. When I woke up, Rachel was sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop, a notepad, and 3 cups of coffee. Good morning, she said, smiling. Ready to take down your son? I laughed. Actually laughed. I couldn't remember the last time I'd done that. What are you working on? I asked, sitting down across from her. Building our case. She turned the laptop toward me. I've been going through everything you sent me. The photos of David's documents, your rent payment records, the lease agreement. Mom, we have him. We really have him. What do you mean? Rachel pulled up a photo I'd taken of my room. First, let's talk about where you were living. California has strict habitability laws. A rental unit must have adequate heating, proper ventilation, legal egress, meaning a way to exit in case of emergency, and it must meet building codes. Your room had a space heater, a window that barely opened, and you had to walk through the laundry room to access a bathroom. That's not a legal rental unit. I didn't know that. David probably didn't either. Or if he did, he didn't care. But here's the bigger issue. If David was charging you rent for an illegal unit and claiming that rental income on loan applications or tax forms, that's fraud. My mouth went dry. Fraud. Yes. And there's more. She pulled up another document. California also has elder financial abuse laws. Someone in a position of trust, like a family member, exploits an elder for financial gain. That's a crime. David was charging you $800 a month while making $180,000 a year, forcing you to work 3 jobs, and using your rent money to fund his personal lifestyle and business investments. That's textbook exploitation. So what do? We fight back. And we have an appointment with Diana Martinez in 2 hours to figure out exactly how. Diana Martinez's office was in downtown Portland, in a building that looked like it had been there for 100 years. Her office was small but organized, with law books lining the walls and a desk covered in case files. Diana herself was in her 50s, with sharp eyes and a warm smile. He shook my hand firmly. Mrs. Chin, I've reviewed the materials Rachel sent me. I have to say, this is one of the clearer cases of elder financial abuse I've seen in a while. Your son made some very stupid mistakes. What kind of mistakes? I asked. First, he collected rent without ensuring the space met legal habitability standards. Second, he used your rent payments as proof of income for business loans without disclosing that you're a family member living in an illegal unit. Third, and this is the big one, he put everything in writing. She pulled out printed copies of the documents I'd photographed. This spreadsheet where he tracks your payments and calls you an additional income stream? This is evidence of intent. He wasn't helping you out of the goodness of his heart. He was exploiting you for profit. What can we do? Rachel asked. Diana leaned forward. Several things. First, we file a complaint with Adult Protective Services in California. They'll investigate the financial abuse. Second, we file a complaint with the Sacramento County Building Department. That garage conversion was almost certainly done without permits. If they find violations, David could face serious fines. Third, we file a small claims suit for the return of your rent money, all $14,400 you paid over 18 months. My head was spinning. $14,400? Yes. You paid $800 a month for 18 months. That's $14,400 total. And since the unit didn't meet habitability standards and was likely illegal, you have grounds to argue that the rent should be returned. Will we win? I asked. I think we have a very strong case. But I need to ask you something, Margaret. Do you have any other evidence? Texts, emails, recordings of conversations with David. I hesitated. I recorded some conversations on my phone. Just in the last few days when things got really bad. I didn't know if that was legal. California is a 2-party consent state for recording, Diana said carefully. That means both parties need to consent to being recorded. However, there are exceptions. If you reasonably believed you were being financially exploited or threatened, and you recorded to protect yourself, a court might allow it as evidence. What did you record? I pulled out my phone. The night before I left, I recorded David and Jessica arguing. I could hear them through the vents in my room. David said I was a cash cow, and that they shouldn't mess with a good arrangement. Diana's eyes lit up. Play it for me. I pulled up the recording. My hands were shaking as I hit play. David's voice came through, tinny but clear. She should be working hard. He's an adult. And frankly, this is a good arrangement for us. Jessica, what do you mean? David, Jessica, think about it. Your mom pays us $800 a month. That's $9,600 a year. We're not spending that on her. He buys her own food. He cleans the house. He stays out of our way. It's basically free money. Jessica, David, that feels wrong. She's my mother-in-law. David, and we're giving her a place to live. Or even, look, your mom is a cash cow. Why would we mess with that? If she can't afford the rent, she can get a fourth job. The recording ended. Diana sat back in her chair. Margaret, this is gold. This recording shows intent, exploitation, and a complete lack of care for your well-being. Even if a court doesn't allow it as direct evidence due to recording laws, this gives us leverage. If David knows you have this, he'll be much more likely to settle. What's our next step? Rachel asked. Diana pulled out a notepad. I'm filing the APS complaint today. I'm also drafting a demand letter to David, requesting the return of all rent payments within 30 days, or we proceed to small claims court. And I'm contacting the Sacramento County Building Department to report the illegal garage conversion. What will happen to David? I asked. If the building department finds violations, he'll be fined, possibly thousands of dollars. He'll have to bring the space up to code or stop renting it out. If APS finds evidence of financial exploitation, they could refer the case to law enforcement. And if we win in small claims court, he'll have to pay you back plus court costs. I felt dizzy. This all seems like so much. Diana's expression softened. Margaret, I know this is overwhelming. But you need to understand something. What David did to you was wrong. It was illegal. And he needs to face consequences or he'll keep doing it. To you, to Jessica, to whoever else he can exploit. You're not just fighting for yourself. You're fighting to stop him. He was right. I knew she was right. We spent the next hour going over every detail. Diana recorded a formal statement from me, documenting the timeline, the living conditions, the exploitation. By the time we left her office, I felt something I hadn't felt in 18 months. Hope. That evening, Rachel and I were sitting on her couch eating takeout Thai food when my phone buzzed. It was a notification from Facebook. Rachel saw my face change. What is it? I opened Facebook and felt my stomach drop. David had posted something. A long post. Public. I'm sad to share that I'm dealing with a family situation that has gotten out of hand. My mother-in-law has been living with us for the past 18 months. We welcomed her into our home after she lost everything due to poor financial decisions. We asked her to contribute a small amount to household expenses, far below market rate, to help her learn financial responsibility. Recently, she stopped paying and demanded to live here for free. When we explained that wasn't possible, she became hostile, went through my private documents, and made false accusations about our family. She has now left our home and is apparently threatening legal action. I'm sharing this because I want people to understand the truth. We tried to help her, and this is how we've been repaid. It's heartbreaking. Please keep our family in your thoughts during this difficult time. The post had 47 likes and 23 comments already. I scrolled through the comments. Most were supportive of David. So sorry you're dealing with this, David. Some people just can't be helped. Family can be so ungrateful. You did more than enough. She should be ashamed of herself. You opened your home to her. But then I saw other comments. Comments from people I knew. Ava from the diner. I work with Margaret. She's one of the kindest, hardest working people I know. She worked 3 jobs to pay you rent, David. Maybe tell the whole story. Tom, the manager at the bakery. Margaret Chin worked for me for 18 months and never missed a shift. She's honest and dedicated. I don't know the full situation, but I know her character. Carol, a regular customer at the diner. I've gotten to know Margaret over the past year. She's been nothing but lovely. This post feels like there's more to the story. And then more people started commenting. Coworkers, customers, people who'd seen me working multiple jobs, seen how exhausted I always was, seen me counting change to buy groceries. The tide of the comments section started to shift. Rachel read over my shoulder. He's trying to control the narrative. But it's not working. What do I do? I asked. Nothing. Don't engage. Let the truth speak for itself. The next morning Diana called. Margaret, I filed the building code complaint yesterday afternoon. The Sacramento County Building Department called me this morning. They're sending an inspector to David's house tomorrow. That fast. Illegal rental units are taken very seriously, especially when there's potential elder abuse involved. The inspector will evaluate the garage conversion, check for permits, and determine if it meets habitability codes. If there are violations, and I'm confident there will be, David will be issued a notice of violation and given 30 days to correct it or face escalating fines. What about the APS complaint? That takes longer. They have to interview David, Jessica, and you. But I've flagged it as urgent given your age and the financial exploitation. They should contact you within a week. That afternoon, Rachel convinced me to go to the diner where I used to work. You need to see something, she said mysteriously. When we walked in, Ava was at the counter. She broke into a huge smile when she saw me. Margaret. Oh my God, come here. He pulled me into a hug. Then she pointed to the counter. There was a jar. A big glass jar with a handwritten label. Help Margaret start fresh. Inside were bills. Lots of bills. What is this? I asked, my voice shaking. After David posted that garbage on Facebook, Tom and I decided to do something. We put this jar out yesterday. The customers have been incredible. People who barely know you have been donating. Margaret, look. She pulled out the jar and opened it. Inside was cash and checks. She'd been keeping a tally on a piece of paper taped to the side. $1,247. I burst into tears right there in the diner. People care about you, Ava said softly. You're not alone. Tom came out from the kitchen. Margaret, we've got your back. Whatever you need, you tell us. I couldn't speak. I just hugged them both and cried. That evening my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Margaret? This is Jessica. I froze. Jessica. I need to talk to you. Her voice was small. Can we meet? Somewhere David won't find out. My heart was pounding. Yes. Of course. When? Tomorrow. There's a coffee shop on Oak Street. Can you meet me there at 2 p.m.? I'm in Portland, Jessica. It'll take me. Please. Her voice cracked. Margaret, I need help. I can't do this anymore. Rachel drove me back to Sacramento the next morning. We arrived at the coffee shop 30 minutes early. Jessica walked in at exactly 2 p.m. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair pulled back messily. She was wearing sweatpants and a hoodie. I'd never seen her dressed so casually. She sat down across from me. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then Jessica started crying. He's been lying to me, she whispered. About everything. The money. The rent. The hotel charges. Everything. I reached across the table and took her hand. Tell me what happened. After you left, I confronted him about the hotels. He denied it at first. Then he got angry. He said it was none of my business, that I should be grateful he takes care of me, that I'm nothing without him. She wiped her eyes. Margaret, he's never talked to me like that before. Or maybe he has and I just didn't hear it. I don't know anymore. What else did he say? I asked about your rent money. About the business account. He told me I was crazy, that I was believing your lies. So I went into his office. I found the folder. I saw everything. She pulled out her phone and showed me photos. The same documents I'd photographed. The DW Properties account. The investment property plans. The loan applications using my rent as proof of income. He's been planning this for over a year, Jessica said. He wanted to buy rental properties and become a landlord. He saw you as a test run. A practice tenant. He said, her voice broke. He said you were the perfect first tenant because you were desperate and wouldn't cause problems. I felt sick. And the money I thought was going toward the mortgage? He's been putting it in this separate account. Building capital. Meanwhile, he told me we were struggling financially. He made me return a purse that cost $300 because he said we couldn't afford it. But he's been spending thousands on himself. Jessica, what are you going to do? She looked at me with terrified eyes. I don't know. I don't have money. I don't have a job. I haven't worked in 12 years. If I leave him, how do I survive? How do I support Emma? You can get a lawyer. File for divorce. He'll have to pay child support, alimony. But I don't have money for a lawyer. And David knows lawyers. He'll destroy me. I squeezed her hand. Jessica, I know you're scared. But you can't stay in this. He's controlling you. He's emotionally abusing you. It's the same thing he did to me, just in a different way. I know. Tears streamed down her face. I've known for years. But I didn't know how to leave. I kept telling myself it would get better. That I was overreacting. That I should be grateful. You're not overreacting. And you're not alone. We talked for 2 more hours. I gave Jessica Diana's contact information. I told her about organizations that help women leave abusive marriages. I told her she was strong enough to do this. When we finally left the coffee shop, Jessica hugged me tight. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry for how I treated you. I was scared and I took it out on you. I'm sorry. I know, I said. It's okay. We're going to get through this. Both of us. That night, Diana called again. Margaret, the building inspector, went to David's house today. And the garage conversion is completely illegal. No permits, multiple code violations, inadequate heating, improper electrical work, no emergency egress. David has been issued a notice of violation with $5,000 in fines. He has 30 days to either bring the space up to code, which would cost thousands more, or cease using it as a rental unit. What does that mean? It means he can't rent out that space anymore. If he tries, the fines will escalate to $1,000 per day. And here's the best part. The inspector's report will be submitted to the mortgage lender. If the lender finds out David was operating an illegal rental unit in violation of his mortgage terms, they could call the loan or increase his interest rate. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. There's more, Diana continued. The building inspector noted in his report that the space was being rented to an elderly family member. That triggered an automatic referral to APS. They're expediting your case. Someone will call you tomorrow to schedule an interview. Diana, this is all happening so fast. That's because David made massive mistakes and now they're all catching up with him at once. Margaret, you're winning. After I hung up, I sat on Rachel's couch, staring at nothing. I thought about the past 18 months. The exhaustion. The humiliation. The feeling of being worthless. And I thought about David. My son. The boy I raised alone. The man who'd turned into someone I didn't recognize. Part of me felt guilty for what was happening to him. But a bigger part of me knew this was justice. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Jessica. I hired a lawyer today. I'm filing for divorce. Thank you for showing me I could do this. I smiled through tears. The next day would bring the APS interview. The day after that, Diana would file the small claims suit. The wheels of justice were turning. But I had one more thing I needed to do. I needed to tell David exactly how I felt. Not in anger. Not in revenge. But in truth. The APS investigator's name was Linda Rodriguez. She was in her 40s with kind eyes but a no-nonsense demeanor. She interviewed me over video call from Rachel's apartment, asking questions for nearly 3 hours. How much rent did you pay monthly? $800. What were your living conditions? I described everything. The space heater. The tiny window. Walking through the laundry room to access the bathroom. The thin walls. The isolation. How many jobs were you working? 3. Sometimes 4 when I could pick up extra shifts. Did David know you were working multiple jobs to afford the rent? Yes. He told me I needed to learn financial responsibility. Linda's pen stopped moving. She looked up at me through the screen. Mrs. Chin, your son makes $180,000 a year. You're 63 years old, working multiple minimum wage jobs to pay him rent. Does that seem like financial responsibility to you? No, I said quietly. It doesn't. After the interview, Linda told me she'd be filing her report within 48 hours. Mrs. Chin, I've been doing this job for 15 years. What your son did to you is one of the clearer cases of elder financial exploitation I've encountered. You should know that. 2 days later, Diana called with news. Margaret, APS has completed their investigation. They've substantiated your claim of financial exploitation. They're referring the case to the Sacramento District Attorney's Office for potential criminal charges. My heart stopped. Criminal charges? Elder financial abuse is a crime in California. If the DA decides to pursue it, David could face charges. But that process takes months. In the meantime, we have leverage. I've drafted a settlement demand and sent it to David. I'm asking for $24,000. That's 18 months of rent, plus an additional $9,600 to compensate for the emotional distress and illegal living conditions. Plus $3,000 to cover your relocation costs. That's over $36,000. Yes. And if he doesn't settle, we go to court where all of this becomes public record. His employer would find out. His friends would find out. Everyone would know what he did. I think he'll settle. What if he doesn't? Diana's voice was steel. Then we destroy him in court. That same day, the building department escalated David's fines. The original $5,000 had jumped to $15,000 because David hadn't responded to the notice of violation. He had 15 days to pay or face legal action. And then the mortgage lender got involved. Diana called me the next morning, barely able to contain her excitement. Margaret, David's mortgage lender, saw the building code violation report. They've launched a review of his loan because he was operating an illegal rental unit on the property, which violates his mortgage agreement. They're threatening to either call his loan, meaning he'd have to pay off the entire mortgage immediately, or increase his interest rate significantly. Can they do that? Absolutely. When you sign a mortgage, you agree not to use the property for illegal purposes. An unpermitted rental unit qualifies. David is in serious trouble. I should have felt victorious. But mostly I just felt sad. This was my son. The boy I'd raised. And he'd brought all of this on himself. Rachel saw my face. Mom, don't feel guilty. He did this. Not you. I know. But he's still my son. He stopped being your son when he started treating you like a business transaction. He was right. But it still hurt. 3 days later, Diana called again. David's lawyer contacted me. He wants to negotiate a settlement. What's he offering? $18,000. The full 18 months of rent. Plus he'll cover your relocation costs up to $2,000. He's also agreeing to a non-disparagement clause, meaning he can't speak negatively about you publicly. What about the additional damages? He's refusing. His lawyer says the living conditions were adequate and that you're exaggerating. But Margaret, $20,000 is a significant victory. It's real money that will help you start over. We can push for more, but there's a risk. If we go to court and lose, you get nothing. I thought about it. $20,000 would give me a cushion. A fresh start. Security. I'll take it, I said. But I want one more thing. What's that? I want to tell David exactly what I think of him. Face to face. Before I sign anything. Diana was quiet for a moment. Margaret, I don't know if that's a good idea. I don't care. I need to do this. Set up a meeting. Tell him if he wants me to sign, he has to hear me out. Diana sighed. I'll arrange it. The meeting was scheduled for Saturday at 10 a.m. at David's house. Diana advised me to bring Rachel as a witness. David's lawyer would be present too. Rachel and I drove down from Portland Friday night. We stayed at a hotel near David's house. I barely slept. Saturday morning we pulled up to David's house at exactly 10 a.m. His BMW was in the driveway. So was Jessica's SUV. And a car I didn't recognize. Probably his lawyer. Rachel squeezed my hand. You ready? No. But I'm doing it anyway. We walked up to the front door. Before I could knock, David opened it. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes. Wrinkled shirt. Hair uncombed. This wasn't the polished, put-together David I knew. Come in, he said flatly. We followed him inside. His lawyer, a man in his 50s wearing an expensive suit, was sitting at the dining room table with a stack of papers. Diana had arrived early and was sitting across from him. Jessica was standing in the kitchen watching. She looked like she'd been crying. David sat down at the head of the table. Let's get this over with. Diana slid a document across the table. This is the settlement agreement. David pays Margaret $20,000. $18,000 for returned rent and $2,000 for relocation costs. In exchange, Margaret agrees not to pursue further civil action. There's also a mutual non-disparagement clause. David's lawyer picked up the document and reviewed it. After a few minutes he nodded. This is acceptable. David pulled out a checkbook. His hand was shaking as he wrote. He tore out the check and slid it across the table to me. $20,000. There, he said bitterly. Are you happy now? You've destroyed my life. That's when I stood up. No, David. You destroyed your own life. And before I sign this, you're going to sit there and listen to what I have to say. His lawyer started to object. Diana held up a hand. My client has a right to speak. I looked at my son. Really looked at him. And I felt nothing but sadness. You were 7 years old when your father left, I began. Do you remember that? I held you while you cried and told you it would be okay. I promised I'd take care of you. And I did. I worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, to keep a roof over our heads. I went without so you could have new clothes for school. I skipped meals so you could eat. David stared at the table. I put you through college. I co-signed loans when no one else would. When you wanted to buy this house, I gave you $30,000 from your father's life insurance policy, money I needed for my own retirement. I gave it to you because you're my son and I wanted you to succeed. My voice was shaking now, but I kept going. And when your father got sick and died, when I lost everything to medical bills, when I had nowhere to go, you took me in. But you didn't take me in as a son helping his mother. You took me in as a landlord renting to a tenant. You charged me $800 a month to live in an illegal garage with no heat. You made me work 3 jobs at 63 years old. You watched me leave for work at 4 a.m. and come home after midnight, and you never once asked if I was okay. Tears were streaming down my face, but I didn't stop. You called me a cash cow, David. I heard you. You told Jessica I was basically free money. You used my rent payments to fund your lifestyle. Your golf memberships, your expensive dinners, your watches. You used me as proof of income to buy investment properties so you could become a landlord and exploit other people the same way you exploited me. David's face was red. I gave you a place to live. You charged your own mother rent. My voice cracked. You didn't help me, David. You exploited me. You're not a man. You're a parasite. You saw your mother struggling and desperate, and instead of helping her, you used her. The room was completely silent. I turned to Jessica. She was sobbing quietly in the kitchen, her hand over her mouth. And you know what the saddest part is? I said, looking back at David. You learned this from watching your father. He took and never gave. He controlled and manipulated. He made everyone around him feel small. And I thought I'd raised you differently. I thought I'd shown you how to be kind, how to be generous, how to treat people with dignity. But instead you became exactly like him. That's not fair, David started. It's completely fair. Because you had a choice, David. Every single day you had a choice to do the right thing. To treat me with respect. To help me without expecting anything in return. But you chose money over your mother. You chose greed over compassion. You chose to be a parasite. I picked up the pen and signed the settlement agreement. I'm taking this money because I earned it. I earned it by scrubbing your toilets on my day off. I earned it by staying out of your way and making myself small. I earned it by surviving 18 months of humiliation. I stood up and looked at David one last time. You taught me about financial responsibility, David. Now you're about to learn about consequences. His lawyer cleared his throat. What does that mean? I pulled out my phone and opened an email. It means I sent copies of David's expense reports to his employer's ethics hotline. David's face went white. You what? I found your expense reports in your office. You've been charging personal purchases to your company card and claiming they were business expenses. Dinners with friends. Golf outings. Hotel rooms. You've been stealing from your employer, David. And they're investigating. You had no right. David shot to his feet, his chair clattering backward. I had every right. You committed fraud. Against me, against the bank, and against your employer. And you thought you'd get away with it because I was just your desperate mother who'd be too scared to fight back. David's lawyer was furiously whispering to him. Diana was trying not to smile. You're going to regret this, David hissed. I'll make sure you'll do nothing. My voice was calm. Because if you violate the non-disparagement clause, if you come near me, if you so much as mention my name, I'll make sure every single document I have gets sent to the district attorney. And then it won't just be fines and settlements. It'll be criminal charges. Do you understand me? For the first time in my life, I saw my son look truly afraid. Now sign the agreement, I said. Or I walk out of here and you get nothing but lawsuits and investigations. David signed. We left. Rachel drove while I sat in the passenger seat, my whole body shaking with adrenaline. Mom, that was incredible, Rachel said. You destroyed him. I didn't destroy him. He destroyed himself. I just made sure he faced the consequences. We were almost at the highway when my phone rang. It was Jessica. Margaret, can we talk? Please. I had Rachel pull over at a coffee shop. Jessica met us there 20 minutes later. She looked exhausted, defeated, but also strangely lighter. She sat down across from me and took a deep breath. I filed for divorce yesterday, she said. I met with a lawyer. I told her everything. She said I have a strong case for alimony and child support because David controlled all the finances and prevented me from working. She also said she's going to subpoena David's financial records, including that DW Properties account. Jessica, I'm proud of you. I'm terrified, she admitted. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I haven't worked in 12 years. I have no money of my own. Emma is in 7th grade and doesn't understand what's happening. I feel like I'm drowning. She wiped her eyes and looked at me. I know I have no right to ask this. I know I treated you terribly. But Margaret, can I stay with you? Just for a few weeks while I figure things out. I'll get a job. I'll contribute. I can't stay in that house with David. And I have nowhere else to go. I stared at her. This woman who'd handed me a lease agreement at dinner my first night. Who'd made passive-aggressive comments about housework. Who'd stood by while David exploited me. But I also saw the Jessica I'd first met 15 years ago. The bright, ambitious graduate student. The woman who'd been slowly crushed under David's control until she couldn't recognize herself anymore. I saw myself in her eyes. The same fear. The same desperation. The same fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, someone would help. Rachel was watching me carefully. The coffee shop was quiet around us. Jessica's hands were trembling on the table. And in that moment I had to decide, was I going to be the person who turned away when someone needed help? Or was I going to be the person I'd always tried to be? The person who showed up even when it was hard. Everything hung on my answer. I looked at Jessica sitting across from me in that coffee shop, her hands trembling, her eyes red from crying, and I saw two paths in front of me. The first path was easy. I could say no. I could tell her that she made her choices, that she stood by while David exploited me, that I didn't owe her anything. And I'd be completely justified. No one would blame me. The second path was harder. It meant opening my home, my safe space, to someone who'd hurt me. It meant risking being taken advantage of again. It meant being vulnerable. But it also meant being the person I wanted to be, not the person David had tried to make me. I took a deep breath. Yes, I said. You can stay with me. But we need to set some ground rules first. Jessica's eyes filled with tears. Anything. I'll do anything. First, this is temporary. You have 3 months to find a job and save enough money to get your own place. Second, we split expenses equally, groceries, utilities, everything. You're not a guest, you're a roommate. Third, you contribute to the household. We both clean, we both cook, we share responsibilities. And fourth, this is the most important one, we're honest with each other. No passive-aggressive comments. No walking on eggshells. Something's bothering us, we talk about it. Can you do that? Jessica nodded, wiping her eyes. Yes. I promise. Margaret, thank you. I don't deserve this. Maybe not. But everyone deserves a chance to start over. I got mine. Now you're getting yours. Don't waste it. Rachel was quiet on the drive back to Portland. Finally, she said, Mom, are you sure about this? After everything she put you through? No, I admitted. I'm not sure. But I'm going to try anyway. Because if I turn into someone who can't forgive, who can't give someone a second chance, then David wins. He turns me into someone hard and bitter. I won't let him do that to me. Rachel reached over and squeezed my hand. You're a better person than I am. No. I'm just tired of being angry. Anger kept me going through the fight. But now I need something else. I need to build something new. 2 weeks later, using the settlement money from David, I put a deposit down on a 1-bedroom apartment in a senior living community in Tempe, Arizona. It wasn't fancy, just 650 square feet. But it was mine. The walls were painted cream. There was a small balcony overlooking a courtyard. The kitchen had new appliances. And most importantly, there was heat. Real heat. Not a space heater. The apartment had a second bedroom. Really just a den with a closet, where Jessica could stay. It was small, but it was dignified. Private. Safe. Jessica moved in 3 days after I did. She arrived with 2 suitcases and Emma, who was quiet and confused about why they weren't living with her dad anymore. That first night, the 3 of us sat on my new couch, the first piece of furniture I'd bought in years, and ordered pizza. "This is nice," Emma said quietly. "It feels peaceful here." Jessica's eyes met mine. She understood what Emma meant. There was no tension in this apartment. No one controlling the thermostat or monitoring the lights or criticizing the food. It was just peaceful. The next morning, Jessica started job hunting. She updated her resume, which hadn't been touched in 12 years, and started applying to everything she could find. Administrative assistant positions, receptionist jobs, entry-level office work. "I feel like I'm starting over at 42, she said one evening, frustrated after another rejection. "I have no recent work experience. No one wants to hire me." "Keep trying," I told her. "Someone will take a chance on you. That's all you need. One chance." 3 weeks later, Jessica got that chance. A small nonprofit that helped domestic violence survivors needed an office coordinator. When Jessica explained that she was recently separated and trying to get back on her feet, the director hired her on the spot. "We help women rebuild their lives," the director told Jessica. "We understand what you're going through. Welcome to the team." Jessica came home that day and cried happy tears for the first time in what she said was years. Meanwhile, I'd made my own changes. I quit the bakery and the house cleaning company. I kept my position at the diner, just 3 shifts a week, Wednesday through Friday mornings. Ava was thrilled to have me back, and honestly, I'd missed the work. I liked the regulars. I liked the routine. I liked feeling useful without being exploited. For the first time in 2 years, I could breathe. But I'd be lying if I said everything was perfect. Some days I woke up angry. Angry at David for what he'd taken from me. Angry at myself for not seeing it sooner. Angry at the 2 years I'd lost to exhaustion and humiliation. Some days I looked at my bank account, still modest even with the settlement money, and felt the weight of being 63 with no retirement savings. I'd used most of the settlement for the apartment deposit, furniture, and setting aside a small emergency fund. I had maybe $8,000 left. That was it. Some days I passed a mirror and barely recognized the woman looking back. I'd aged in those 2 years. The exhaustion had carved lines into my face that wouldn't fade. Jessica noticed during one of those hard days. I was staring out the balcony window, lost in thought. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "I'm thinking about how much time I lost," I said quietly. "I'm 63 years old. I don't have decades to rebuild my life. I have maybe 10-15 good years left if I'm lucky. And I spent 2 of them being David's cash cow." Jessica sat down beside me. "I know it doesn't help, but I lost time too. 12 years. I was supposed to be a therapist. I was supposed to have a career, friends, a life of my own. David took that from me and I let him." We sat in silence for a moment. "But we're here now," Jessica continued. "We got out. A lot of people don't. They stay until it's too late. We didn't. That has to count for something." He was right. It did count for something. Slowly, week by week, Jessica and I rebuilt something I didn't expect. A real relationship. We cooked dinner together. We watched TV and actually talked during commercials. We shared stories about our days. When Emma came to visit on weekends, David had agreed to joint custody as part of the divorce negotiations. The 3 of us played board games and went to the community pool. Jessica started changing in small ways. She laughed more. She voiced opinions without apologizing. She cut her hair short, something David had never let her do because he said he preferred long hair. She bought clothes she actually liked instead of clothes David approved of. One evening she came home from work excited. "I got promoted. They made me the volunteer coordinator. It's not much more money, but it's a real position with responsibilities. They said I'm good at this." I hugged her. "Of course you're good at it. You were always smart and capable. You just forgot for a while." "David made me forget," she said quietly. "But I'm remembering now." 6 months after Jessica moved in, David's consequences finally caught up with him completely. His employer finished their investigation into his expense report fraud. They found over $40,000 in fraudulent charges over 3 years. They fired him and demanded repayment. When David couldn't pay immediately, they referred the case to law enforcement. David was charged with embezzlement. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 2 years probation and ordered to pay restitution. His mortgage lender, after discovering the illegal rental unit and reviewing his finances, increased his interest rate and required immediate repairs to the property. The cost was over $20,000. David had to take out a second mortgage to pay for it. The divorce was finalized. Jessica got the house. David moved into a small apartment across town. She got primary custody of Emma. David got every other weekend. And he was ordered to pay $2,400 a month in child support and alimony. The irony wasn't lost on me. David's mortgage payment was $2,400. Now he was paying that same amount to Jessica while also paying rent for his own apartment. He'd been so focused on collecting rent from me that he'd destroyed his entire life. Jessica sold the house 6 months later. She said she couldn't stand living there anymore with all the memories. She found a small townhouse near her work and moved in with Emma. On moving day, she hugged me in my apartment. "I couldn't have done any of this without you," she said. "You saved my life, Margaret." "No," I told her. "You saved your own life. I just showed you that you could." 1 year after leaving David's house, I sat on my balcony with a cup of coffee, watching the sun rise over Tempe. I was 64 now. I worked 3 days a week at a job I enjoyed. I lived in a small but comfortable apartment. I had money in the bank, not a lot but enough to feel secure. I had my daughter Rachel visiting every few months. I had a friendship with Jessica that was real and honest. I had customers at the diner who knew my name and asked about my day. I thought about that night in the emergency room. The night I collapsed from exhaustion. The night the nurse asked for my emergency contact and I gave her David's number. The night no one came. I thought about how small I'd felt in that moment. How disposable. How worthless. And I thought about who I was now. I wasn't rich. I wasn't living in a mansion. I wasn't free from worry or struggle. But I was free from exploitation. I was free from being treated like a burden. I was free from shrinking myself to fit into someone else's life. I'd learned something important. Family isn't just blood. It's respect. It's showing up. It's treating each other with dignity. David was my son by blood. But he stopped being family when he decided I was worth more to him as income than as a mother. Jessica, Rachel, Ava, Tom, the customers at the diner who'd put money in that jar, Diana the lawyer who'd fought for me, they were my family now. They were the ones who showed up. Some people think revenge is ugly. That taking someone down even when they deserve it makes you just as bad as them. I disagree. I think survival is beautiful. I think fighting back when someone tries to break you is beautiful. I think standing up and saying, "No more," is beautiful. I didn't just survive what David did to me. I fought back. I documented everything. I built a case. I used the law to get justice. And I won. Yes, I lost 2 years of my life. Yes, those years aged me and exhausted me. Yes, I'll never get that time back. But I also gained something. I learned I'm stronger than I ever knew. I learned that at 63, 64, 65, at any age, it's not too late to fight for yourself. I learned that being small and quiet and grateful doesn't keep you safe. Speaking up does. Having boundaries does. Demanding respect does. And I learned that the most important emergency contact you can have is yourself. Because at the end of the day, you're the one who has to show up for you. My phone buzzed. A text from Ava. Some of us from the diner are getting together Sunday for brunch. And I smiled and texted back. Absolutely. I finished my coffee watching the sun rise higher over the desert. In a few hours I'd head to the diner for my Wednesday shift. Tomorrow Rachel was flying in for a long weekend. Friday Jessica and I were taking Emma to see a movie. My life wasn't perfect. But it was mine. And that was everything. So that's my story. I'm Margaret Chin. I'm 64 years old. I spent 18 months being treated like a business transaction by my own son. I worked 3 jobs to pay rent in an illegal garage. I was called a cash cow. I was exploited, exhausted, and humiliated. But I didn't just survive it. I fought back. I documented everything. I got a lawyer. I stood up for myself. And I won. If you're watching this and you've ever felt invisible in your own life, if you've ever felt like you don't matter, like you're a burden, like you're too old or too tired or too powerless to change things, I want you to know something. You're not alone. And it's not too late. Drop a comment right now and tell me where you're watching from. Tell me your story. Let me know I'm not the only one who's been through something like this. Because I need to know we're in this together. And if this story meant something to you, if it gave you hope or courage or just made you feel less alone, hit that subscribe button. Because this isn't the end. There are more stories to tell. More fights to win. More people who need to know they're stronger than they think. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. With someone who's struggling. With someone who's being taken advantage of and thinks they have no choice. Because they do have a choice. We all do. We can stay small and quiet and grateful. Or we can stand up, speak out, and fight back. I chose to fight. And if you're in a situation like I was, remember this. The most powerful thing you can do is show up for yourself. Because you matter. Your dignity matters. Your life matters. And it's never, ever too late to take it back. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.